Welcome everybody to episode 22nd Practical Psychology Podcast. My name is Joseph. I'm one of the co-hosts. Today I'm very happy to have Amanda, mental health counselor located in Edmonton, Alberta. Amanda is right now doing her Master of Counselling degree in Yorkville University. And today we're very happy to have Amanda. Welcome, Amanda.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So, Amanda, you write down a lot of different passions. Which
Yeah.
one do you want to talk about first?
Yeah. Oh man. Okay. I think for me a big thing is like attachment and the impact that that can have on intimacy throughout the life and what developmentally, like looking at some of that like development with in the context of our relationships with others.
Amanda, you talk about attachment, relationships. You write a little bit about your bio. Uh, you have a long history, starting with babysitting in early in your career,
Yeah.
supporting children and adults. Tell me more about that.
Yeah. So my first babysitting job, like I was 12, just barely 12, and that was the moment that I knew that like I wanted to work with kids. So even before I was able to get all that experience, these kids, I go into this job and I'm like helping an older lady because it's three 2-year-olds.
Mhm,
Um, and there's the one kid who's like the bad kid, right? And they're just like, oh, he
mhm,
acts out so much. He's hitting his brother all the time. And already in my mind, I'm like, okay, there's more to this, right?
yeah.
And it was just cool over the course of like that 6 months, caring for them a couple times a week, getting to know them and starting to see that there's more. And like, oh, his brother is actually kind of mean with
Mhm,
his words, and this kid is really sensitive.
mhm,
And being able to like talk with them and like help them figure out how to interact better and help resolve those challenges. And so in that moment, like this is before I've even had like all this experience and and it was clear to me, I was like, oh, this is something I want to
mhm.
do. So after that, I kind of was just like, okay, stuff with kids, stuff with families. And that kind of continued on through high school and then working at the daycare as an next gen coordinator. Yeah, it's been a journey.
There's a lot there, Amanda, because you're mentioning about managing children, young children, the behavior and what's behind them. You look at the patterns, not just the service behavior. Actually, it can get very technical, those soft skills.
Yes, absolutely it can. And it's so interesting too because children process differently than we do, right? And there's a
Mhm,
lot more of that bodily processing and that cognitive part isn't as strongly there yet. And so
mhm.
but then also they're still little humans, right? So it's fun. It's fun. I enjoy it.
And Amanda, right now, for your clientele in counseling and psychology, what is the percentage is children and what's the percentage is adults?
Yeah. So like sometimes with like one of my clients is 3, almost 4, and so I also see the like within those sessions also see the parent of that client. So then it kind of you're like technically what's that percentage? Um
Wow.
but kids, teens, I'm seeing a few teens and it's pretty evenly spread out like adults, kids, teens. I would say some of my more consistent clients are teens. Um,
Mhm.
yeah.
So Amanda, tell us, what is the youngest children you work with right now in counseling?
Yeah, the youngest would be the 3-year-old client that I'm seeing,
Wow, three.
which is yeah, and the client's almost 4. But
Okay.
it is really interesting to adapt the interventions. And I found one thing that is really, really helpful is like child-centered play therapy. I'm not like obviously certified in that, but utilizing those interventions. Sorry, I hate using all those words. Um,
Yeah.
coming into the session, coming into the session and, having structure, but also letting the kid lead and play and process through play as they
Mm,
do. And the things that come up is amazing, right? As opposed to if I tried to sit down with that kid, they
mm,
just like, no, I'm not talking. But you start playing and those conversations start happening and it's,
mm.
yeah.
Wow, tell us more about it. What is a typical session with the 3 or 4 year old looks like? Because a lot of the counselors or they watch Netflix, they imagine it's really talk therapy, talking about the feelings, and obviously
Mhm.
children don't really behave the same way.
Yeah. And so it depends. So some of the like for I like child-centered play therapy and then cognitive behavioral
Okay.
play therapy.
Yeah,
They're a
yeah.
little bit different, but I just kind of adjust it based on the moment. And so some of it is, I have a few different things out and it depends on the kid,
Mhm.
but okay, you can choose what you want to do. And like, oh, really?
Yeah.
And you bring out a little sheet and you're maybe coloring and you ask them a question about,
Yeah.
it's about me and oh, wow, where did you last go to vacation? Oh, and then they
Mm,
start telling you this story about family and they're talking about the
mm.
things that their mom is like, I don't know how to get them to talk about it. And so part of that is like helping the kid process, and part of that's actually
Okay.
also about helping understand where the kid's at to to help empower the parent to
Okay.
know how to support the kid too.
Oh, so there is some talking involved,
Hmm.
but the foundation is you're playing with some sort of toys or color sheets or
Hmm. Yeah,
yeah.
or like
Mm,
and I mean
mm, mm.
I'm not a certified play therapist, so I don't have like this
Okay.
wall full of toys. I hope to get
Okay.
there.
Okay.
Um
Also that is your office right now inside.
yes, this is it.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of like it, the painting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, wonderful here. So, when the children comes, what type of usually tools or toys would you use?
Yeah. So at this point in my practice, again, not having the big wall, but
Mhm.
um, I like to have like just drawing things, some
Okay.
clay. There's some little like felt things with faces, and they can make the emotions. Puppets.
Okay.
Puppets is a big one. Just because
Puppets.
it can,
Okay.
yeah, puppets and things like that can help
Okay.
the kid kind of externalize and process a little bit better.
Okay.
Like, oh, the
Yeah.
puppet's sad because XYZ. Oh, puppet, do you need a hug?
Okay.
And
Wow.
the child is able to kind of process that through because it's less threatening. It's an external, and so kind of using those puppets in that way.
Oh, so you must have a pretty big box of those toys and children toys.
I mean, I would say a medium-sized box. A big box
A
is if these
medium.
walls were full. Yeah.
Okay. So do you frequent to go into the toy store to update or buy new toys and
Yeah, yeah. My hope is, yes, I do. I'm like looking at the little animal figurines and stuff, and I'm
okay,
like, okay,
wow.
the truck. I'm like, how many occupations do you need? Um, and so
Yeah.
that's still a process that I am trying
Yeah.
to build that. But yeah, even just like books and the things that kids can learn through books, and some of that, hearing a kid
Okay.
in a story go through the same thing they are, and
Okay.
being like, it's just that again, that processing that can be trickier to do. If, like a 3-year-old kid is not going to sit in, okay, I don't know, maybe some will, but sit in a chair for an hour and just talk. Like, I was gonna say I
Okay.
can hardly do that, but I guess I can.
So you'll be reading from some storybooks together with the children.
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and some of
Yeah.
them, and that's not like my go-to, but it can be really helpful. Like, there's this one book, it's called Big Feelings Come and Go. And
Okay.
it's a teacher telling the kids a story, and this kid is into it, and it's like talking about fight or flight or freeze. And
Okay.
like
Wow.
each kid is like, I feel like this when I'm in that state. And it's okay, so what can we do? And it goes through the exercises, and you do the exercises with the kid. Um, and it's really cute. It
Yeah.
talks about like the alarm in the brain. Wah, wah, and then it talks about how these things help it get quieter. And it's very sweet because the kiddo is,
Yeah.
we're reading and talking about the things that we can do to cope. And then the little kiddo just beside me, wah, wah, wah,
Yeah.
automatically starts doing that, like the alarm is getting quieter, right? So that can be a cool tool to help provide coping mechanisms and even just like psychoeducation for the kiddo in a way that they're engaged with.
Oh, wow. I see. Okay. Yeah. So Amanda, here you talk about the children, the kids here. Um, so when the parents, I imagine they sometimes they're also inside the same room together.
Yeah.
And what do they do in the room during the counseling?
Yeah, so especially as the kids get older, that's not really as common, but like with a
Okay.
younger kid, the kid didn't want the parent to leave. And so I'm like, okay.
Okay. Oh, I
And
see
so,
that.
even
Yeah.
just consulting with my supervisor and such, and using it as an opportunity to help promote the kids' independence and autonomy. Uh,
Okay.
and so, like, I would ask every session, okay, do you want mom to come in or do you want to wait
Mm.
outside? And then halfway through, I'd be like, okay, do you want mom to go sit out there? We'd show her where mom sits. And yeah, eventually, now we're at the point in our sessions where, yeah, I want mom to come in for the first 5 minutes, and I want mom to
Mm.
come in for the last 5 minutes. Uh,
Mm.
and so when the parents in the sessions, it's a bit more like, communicating a little bit like the sessions for the kid. And
Mm.
if they want you there, you can be there. Um, the kid will engage the parent sometimes, and so you like you kind of roll
Mm.
with it. Um, but it's a bit more like the parent is kind of like a little bit of a fly on the wall in a lot of senses, there to support the kid,
Mm.
unless unless there are some interventions where it's like you're working with the parent and the kid on the relationship. I haven't
Okay.
actually gotten really to do that much yet, but there's a lot of research
Mm.
on those. You're watching the interactions and you provide feedback and insight and talk it through.
Okay.
So there's a lot of options.
Wow. And Amanda, during the session, do you also engage the parent to do drawing together, read the
hmm
storybooks together?
hmm so for the sessions, like if I was doing something that was a little bit more like
Mm.
building that relationship with the parent and child for the purpose, then I would.
Mm.
But in this session, it's a bit more engaging the kid, and then the kid might engage the parent a bit too.
Okay.
Or
Mm.
especially if they're young enough that they don't have all the words, or they're saying
Mm.
something, and I'm just like, I don't know what word that is,
Yeah.
right? Then
Mhm.
mom or the parent might step in and say, oh, they're saying this because that's so and so's dog. Um, and
Mm.
because really the goal is to create a safe space and to help the kids feel
Mm.
comfortable. Right?
Mhm.
Like otherwise they're not going to want to be here. And when they want to be here, it's going to be easier to help them cope and thrive and heal.
Yeah. And Amanda, for the children that you are seeing,
Mhm.
typically how many sessions do they need or typically?
Yeah, so some it's a little bit more like I had some come in and it was kind of like give my kids some coping skills
Okay.
to cope with the things that are happening. And so it's like, okay, let's brainstorm.
Yeah. Mm.
And so that can just be a few sessions. I usually ask like at the outset, at the start, kind of like Um, like my one client, I was like, well, the typical amount of sessions is usually around here. What do you think about
Okay.
that? They're like, well, can we just keep coming to see you until we feel like we're okay?
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fine. We can do that. And so I kind of try to collaborate on that and communicate
Mhm.
a little bit of that to match the goals of the session.
Okay. I see. Okay. Yeah. So Amanda, tell us more about the team's client.
hmm
How does the therapy normally look like? Because that's the majority of your clients.
Yeah. I remember one prof was like, you know what? Teens need authenticity. Um,
Okay.
they can tell if you're being fake. And
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I, So a really big value of mine is authenticity and for people
Mm,
to be able to show up as they are. Like I'm like,
okay,
don't
yeah,
put that mask on for me.
yeah.
Don't try to act a certain way. Like just come and exist. Uh, and so it's kind of fun working with teens because
Okay.
getting to build that relationship
Mm,
and be imperfect. Like, I'm so sorry. Like it's um it's really, really cool to be able to build that relationship and out of that relationship be
mm,
able to offer insight and explore some of those things together. So yeah, I would say with teens, I find also a mixture of stories and connecting. And then
mm,
also like, okay, now here's this technical therapy thing.
mm.
And here's this story. And as always, it depends on the individual, but yeah.
Oh, so Amanda here for the teens kind they coming to counseling. What would you say is the percentage they come by themselves, and some come because their parents told them to come?
Yeah, I do. It's hard because the parents will usually
Mm,
like initiate, like they'll reach out and say,
okay.
"Hey, I'm
Yeah.
booking a session for my kiddo." Um, or occasionally it's like, "Hey, my sibling wants therapy." And so I'm like, "Okay." So then you kind of talk about, needing the guardian to be involved and consent and assent and that whole process. Uh, but I find that with like some of them, like one of my clients, more of like a preteen, you look at the forms and you're like, oh, I can tell that like the preteen filled this out.
Yeah. Mhm.
And then so far it's been really cool to see that like the parents are really honoring like their teenagers' autonomy,
Yeah.
and just being like, yeah, I want them to have what they need, like, and kind of
Mm.
giving them the space to go into therapy. So
Yeah. Tell us more a little bit about are there any cases, when people watch TV about counseling, the parents bring the teenagers to you, the teenagers doesn't want to talk to you?
yeah, yeah. So for me, I really try to
Yeah.
adopt the approach that like there's not difficult clients, right?
Mm,
And so for me, that's kind of something that I've always struggled a little bit with is this idea of like, I know I want to work with kids and teens, and I've known that for a long time. So how do you handle when a parent's like, I'm bringing my kid to therapy, and the kid or the teen is like, I don't want to come.
mhm,
And so I really try to find a balance of like being aware of like what the parent says is the issue and what their hopes are.
yeah.
But also ultimately with that teen kind of being like, okay, like what do you want to work on? What do you feel like is the
Mm,
issue and like how can we make things better for you? Yeah, even just acknowledging the
mhm,
some of the like anxiety that comes with going to therapy and
mm,
empathizing with that. And it's like, okay, you know what?
mm,
That makes sense that you wouldn't want to show up if that's why people are telling you you're coming to therapy, right? So,
yeah, yeah.
um, yeah, I think I just kind of try to meet them where they're at and be like, okay,
Mm,
well, how can we make this good for you?
okay, so it sounds like you are giving them a orientation for both parties to kind of so they have an informed decision.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So Amanda, right now, the children and teens, how many percentage is in person in the office behind you, and how many is online, I guess?
Yeah, a lot of it's in person. Some like my online clients are more so adults.
Okay, yeah,
Uh, I actually haven't had done any sessions with kids or teens that have been online
okay. Mhm.
so far. And that's fine, that can change, but especially with kids, I find that it can be there are ways to do virtual therapy with kids, but I really like being able to be in that space and have
Mhm,
the toys and there are options for doing virtual therapy with kids, but
mhm.
it is limited and it does make it a little bit harder, especially if they're
Mm,
younger, because then how much of it is troubleshooting and trying to get the things to work, right? Like there's
mhm,
virtual sound tray therapy, which is super cool. And
okay,
I did some training for that,
mm,
but like it's much easier to engage with a child
okay.
that way in person versus online, right?
Oh yeah. Oh, it's difficult to imagine the virtual sanctuary compared to the in-person sanctuary there. Do you have a sanctuary in your office?
I don't actually.
Okay, yeah,
I'm
okay, yeah.
collecting the supplies. I'm collecting the
Okay, yeah.
supplies to build
Hey,
it.
tell us about
So,
the supplies, because you have the supplies for the children.
yeah,
What are the supplies for teens?
supplies for teens. Okay, yeah. So it depends because
Okay,
not I'm trying to decide which direction to go. We'll just
okay,
discuss even like worksheets and handouts, and I try to find ways to make it
mm,
fun. Um,
okay, wow.
So there's like these little, so like working on self-esteem, there's like these little fun little quizzes online. It's like, what
Mm,
animal are you? And you answer these questions, and it's like, here's the strengths of this. And so
wow.
just kind of fun little ways to engage in identity that way. Um, the play in a session looks a little bit different, right? Some of that more like connecting. It's not necessarily actually like the toys.
Okay,
Maybe still a little bit of like art. Uh,
okay,
some like that, some don't, right? So
okay. Do you like play chess with the teens?
I don't, I'm trying to learn how to play chess, but it's really
Okay,
hard.
I see. Okay, yeah.
But there are some fun little like card decks that I have in like with conversation. But
Okay, wow.
yeah, the play I seek to have like a playful application and demeanor with the therapy with teens.
Mm,
Um, and perhaps like there's an activity to work on or some things like that,
mhm.
but it isn't as like, here is this bin of toys as it is with the kids.
Okay, yeah.
It's a little bit, and from my experience anyways, I feel like being able to have like a casual atmosphere with teens can be helpful
Yeah.
because and it just makes it more comfortable and it helps the conversation. And so I think even just the playful, relaxed atmosphere helps as
Mhm.
well.
Okay, yeah. And Amanda, right now you are working under a clinic, and does that clinic primarily support children and teens?
So my clinic supports a variety of things. So my
Yeah.
supervisor works with like kids, teens,
Okay,
adults, older adults, couples.
okay,
So um, it is kind of nice because, there are some things where like if I was at a place that only supports kids, then it would kind of be harder to still maintain that like range of clients because I still want to
mm,
work with like parents. And women's mental health is also super important to me, right? So being able to maintain
yeah.
that range with my clients is super valuable.
So in a way, you have a lot of opportunities for different things here in your clinic.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow, I see. Okay. Tell us a little bit more about working with children and teens here. Have you also done parenting, couple family counseling? This quite connected.
Yes, great question. I've done a bit of couples counseling. I actually haven't done any family therapy.
Okay.
Maybe maybe I'm not supposed to admit that. Um, I do like family therapy has always kind of been something I'm interested in,
Yeah. Mm,
but also realizing as well that like that's a very like family therapy is helping a lot of people work together and integrate. Um, so for me, I really I feel like I can kind of try to like apply a family-ish lens. So like if I'm working with a teen, you're kind of looking at some of those relationships and how can we make that context better? But I haven't, so I still kind of apply that, but not having done like I have
mhm.
5 people in a session.
I see. Okay, Amanda. Wow. So, Amanda, at the beginning of our conversation, you talk about your passion about attachment and
Mhm.
relationships.
Yeah.
So, because we work with so many people, how's that attachment piece from the younger children and then the teens to adults that kind of show,
Mhm.
in the
Whew.
session?
Yeah, it's interesting because even when you look at like how people develop over their life, like personally, but like the importance of relationships in that development. It's interesting because you can see like so my kind of favorite theory of development is like psychosocial development. And then there's like another like attachment kind of pathway that goes into a little bit more like those relationships and why they're important.
Mm,
Um, but there's different stages where like for example, it's like 5 or 6 to like 13 years old is a little bit of that like industry versus inferiority. And so when you in that stage, you really develop a lot of like self-confidence, your self-concept, and that ability to like relate to others more confidently because you have that. And so exploring that and understanding that, so like a client comes in and they're like, I have a really low self-esteem. I'm not totally sure why. And there's not always a black and white answer. Sometimes it's a lot more complicated. Um, but like allowing that sense of industry and allowing children at that age to explore and do things themselves and take initiative and start projects really can help build self-esteem and as a foundation for moving forward and how they see themselves because that stage goes into identity development, right? And so it helps them take that initiative and as they're figuring out their identity, which then can help them in turn be able to develop intimate relationships. But I mean, it's not always linear, right? It can be this and then that and this and that.
yeah.
Hmm.
So when you are counseling with adults, do you discuss the childhood for that development leading to today's attachment style?
Yeah, so I don't necessarily go all the way through the process, but I usually, and it
Mm.
depends on the client, but um and like EFT, emotion focused therapy, kind of, looks back at some of the attachment
Yeah.
stuff and helping maybe re-establish some secure attachment and work through some of that. But talking with clients about like I don't know why I'm like this, and looking back and saying like, okay, well, you know what? Like you have been through a lot as a kid. And I think people don't really realize the imp like how important those early years are, right?
Mhm.
For our brain development and with that, like our social engagement and our relationships. Like Bruce Perry and his What Happened to You? Conversations on Trauma, Resilience, and Healing, talking about how formational those early years are. And he's very like neurophysiological,
Mhm.
neurobiological psychiatrist. And so that's kind of what got me into it, is
Okay.
I'm going
Mm.
off a little bit, but um, so yeah, just talking a little bit about like, when our needs aren't met as children or as babies, like that can shape how we see the world and that can shape our relationships going forward. And so if you didn't feel secure, if you didn't feel like your needs were met, then, that might have impacted how you see the world. Is it a safe place? Um, or like you go forward to the next stage, autonomy versus shame and doubt. And this stage to me is like wild because it's so important for our development of relationships, is that development of autonomy. So that's like a year and a half to 3 years, 2 to 4 years, around that time. Um, and to get there, you kind of need to have that trust in your world. You need to know that there's a safe space you can go out from. But so the principle of this stage is that you know you're safe, so you can go out. And you start to learn that, like, I'm separate from my caregiver. I can go do something independently
Mhm.
and I can still be connected to them.
Mhm.
And so it's autonomy versus shame and doubt. And so if kids aren't really allowed to go out as much and there's a bit more of that like holding them close, that like controlling, that can inhibit or break down the development of that autonomy, which you consider in relationships, right? So it's just a super important thing to be able to say, I can go over here and do this thing and know that I'm securely attached to you still. And so that development of like
Mhm.
our own identity. And so these are like some of those things
Mhm.
that we can explore, right? And it's like people don't always realize how much those beliefs that you learned when you were
Mhm.
younger or the context that you were in really impacts your relationships today.
Wow, Amanda. Excellent. Here, I'm looking at my list of questions here. You also mentioned you're very passionate about relationships, women's health, fertility health, and all that. I believe I will have to invite you again to ask all these to learn more about you here.
Hey, I would love that. Yeah.
So Amanda, to wrap up here, you send me your Instagram,
Hmm.
your email, phone number, and your LinkedIn. If other clinicians, clients, viewers want to contact you, are those I can post it on the YouTube here?
Yeah, that would be perfect.
Okay. So Amanda, today we are really, really happy to have you, and we will talk soon.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Bye, Amanda.